Super quick before we start the video, I did want to say that we have another channel, Degenerate Plays, where we play through video games together, kind of podcast style. I really want to grow that channel this year and over the next year, but we've played through Kingdom Hearts games, we played through Metal Gear games, we played through all kinds of stuff over there, and we have a lot more in the future coming. So, appreciate you. Hope you'll check that out. Let's hop into the video. Assassin's Creed is probably one of our favorite franchises out there, even more modern Assassin's Creed. Nate, you and I both really like. You know what I mean? We'll have our criticisms of them and things we wish that had been different. But overall, we like this series. But that said, one thing that I think you and I have been pretty firm on is that despite enjoying Assassin's Creed, it hasn't really had a solid direction with some elements. You know, like, for example, they made their multiplayer, they tied it into their modern day, then they shut them down and threw them out. You know, they made their modern day story with Desmond, then they kind of pushed him out of the narrative and then kept him in the background now as like a weird being in like the Grey universe or whatever you want to say. Then they, you know, had moved away from the original plan, which was supposedly for a trilogy of Assassin's Creed games all the way back, you know, when it was kind of a spin-off of Prince of Persia. It came out of that. Then they abandoned Prince of Persia and a lot of their other series, actually. And now we're at the point where Ubisoft is allegedly, according to this reliable insider, so that's worth noting, this is somebody who does have a reliable track record, Tom Henderson. They reportedly were going to make something like 20 Assassin's Creed games over the next 10 years. And this story developed a little further, where now it's kind of come out that the average plan was something like every 6 months or so, an Assassin's Creed game would come out, if they were launching on schedule. Important to note, Shadows already got delayed, so you know there's going to be some outliers in there, and we know that these are going to be different types of games. So some of these are supposed to be multiplayer, some of them are supposed to be mobile, some of them are supposed to be more RPG. But long story short, I wanted to talk to you today, Nate, about this because I feel like there's just too much Assassin's Creed on the horizon, and I think it's kind of ignoring lessons they were supposed to have learned. So I guess I leave that question up to you guys. Do you think this is too much Assassin's Creed? Let us know.
Yeah, a big problem with Assassin's Creed in general is I feel like the same problem that Star Wars is going through. It's Disney got control of Star Wars, they saw it was very popular, obviously, and they decided to capitalize as much as they possibly can in as short of amount of time. Now we're just getting, like, the most random things ever, you know, in Star Wars, and I know some people like certain projects of it, but it's too much. Mm-hmm. You know, it seems like every week they're like, new Star Wars show, and you're like, okay, I'm not even caught up yet. Like, sorry.
Well, didn't you say the same thing about the MCU?
Well, and the MCU is the same way, too. It's just, I love the MCU, I love Star Wars, but it's gotten to the point where it's like, it's too much. They've just decided to go all in on it, and it's kind of overwhelming. Mm-hmm. Assassin's Creed, I feel like, is getting to that point. And if this plan goes through, it definitely will be to that point where it just seems like it's too much. Like, I love Assassin's Creed. Don't get me wrong. Every time they release an Assassin's Creed game, I'm at 50% just at the sight of it. Mm-hmm. You know, already.
Shill,
I know. But this is, like, too much. Like, we're talking a game every 6 months.
Mm-hmm. We're also talking games that are being remade.
Yeah.
Because, well, so that also shows you... Now, keep in mind, Silent Hill 2 Remake was one of my favorite games in the last few years. You know, the Final Fantasy VII Remake series, some of my favorite games in the last few years. So I'm not saying you can't do remakes, but the difference for me is those are older games. You know, you have Final Fantasy VII was on the PS1. You have Silent Hill 2 was on the PS2. And then you get to something like this, and it's like, we're talking about games like Assassin's Creed Black Flag being remade.
Which still,
From late PS3, early PS4, late Xbox 360, early Xbox One.
Yeah, like the game still holds up.
But people have been asking for a sequel for it forever, and Ubisoft just plugged their ears, screamed like madmen, and pushed out Sea of whatever. What was it?
Sea of Thieves?
No.
Skull and Bones.
Skull and Bones, yeah. For some reason I thought it was Sea of Thieves. Yeah, They pushed out Skull and Bones, sorry. Sea of Thieves is at least fun. Skull and Bones is just kind of a drag.
Yeah.
But, like, so they're not actually listening to things... I know, who cares what the consumer thinks? Well, Ubisoft clearly does because their stock is suffering. So people have been saying, hey, why don't you bring back some of your old series? You know, why don't you remake Assassin's Creed 1 if you want to remake something? And they're like, oh, did you say we should make Assassin's Creed Valhalla again? Basically, like,
Right.
It's like you're picking games that are not old and actually have backwards compatibility on everything. Like, this isn't some game from the past that you can't play easily.
Yeah.
It's very, very easily accessible.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like the Horizon Zero Dawn remaster.
Yeah.
You know, that the game came out on the PS4. It was literally a PS4 game.
Yep.
It still plays fine, but instead they're like, well, let's just, I don't know, let's release it again.
Yeah.
Remastering set. I'm like, okay, the game's fine. But yeah, I mean, to me, the problem is for people that actually want to get into these games. Like, let's say someone out there is like, man, I really want to play all 20 of these games. Like, they're really into this. When I was playing through Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and maybe this is just a me problem, because I'm slow. I'm sorry to platinum the game the night it came out. Like,
well, you also have a job.
I have a job. I think it took me like 8 or 9 months of playing Valhalla. Now, that wasn't straight. I think I took a little break in between there and played a different game. But it was like 8 or 9 months to play through Valhalla and platinum it.
Mm-hmm. Well, isn't it a few hundred hours to platinum?
Yeah, like 200 hours.
If you're actually doing
If you go
everything.
for the platinum and stuff like that, yeah, like 200 hours.
Well, and you have to think that would be playing a game as a full-time job for like 6 weeks.
Right.
Like if you played it as a full-time 40-hour-a-week clock in,
Yeah.
like a job, you'd be playing that game for 6 weeks to platinum it.
Yeah, it's over a month.
Yeah.
So it's like... Now, there are people that platinum that game, like, within the week it came out because they have no lives. But
Jeez,
for normal
okay.
people out there that takes, you know, a while to get through these games, it's like, I'm not even done with Valhalla before the next game comes out.
Yeah.
Like, that's ridiculous. Like, you need to have time to allow people to enjoy these games. Not everyone beats the game within 2 weeks. There are a lot of people that do, but not everyone is like that.
Well, it should also be replayable. You know,
Well, yeah.
something that I remember with
Right.
Assassin's Creed 1, 2, 3, 4, Brotherhood, whatever, all these ones, is that you would play it again. You know, it wasn't like you'd... And this is also, I think, a problem with, like, a cultural shift where games, movies, etc., they're seen as, like, a pump and dump. Mm-hmm. Like, the game is, like, a one-night stand.
Yeah, come and go like the gas station.
Yeah. It's like you... And this is my problem with people who I think are consumers, like, over being an enjoyer of something. You know,
Yeah.
like, who enjoy the thing, they think about it, they think about, well, what would I have done? Or, oh, here's why I like it. You know, like, they're not really thinking... There's unfortunately been a shift of a lot of people where it's like, my life sucks, so I'm going to pump through this movie series or this game series or whatever as quickly as possible and move on to the next one. Mm-hmm. It's like they're checking off a box. And I think that Ubisoft is kind of preying on that a little bit and trying to turn Assassin's Creed into a lifestyle. And this is something you talked about with the MCU and Star Wars before, is the idea of like, instead of just being a fan and it being like, yeah, I watched Thor this year and I watched Captain America this year. It's like, did you watch this show? Did you read this tie-in comic? Did you watch these 6 movies? Did you read this? Did you watch this interview? Did you watch the Disney D23 Expo? It's like they want to turn it into a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And something I've noticed with Assassin's Creed is it's the same. Like, they don't want it to be a series of narrative-based games that you think about, you play, you interact with, you enjoy the history aspect, you enjoy the fiction aspect, whatever, and then, you know, you have your favorite and you go back to it. They are better served by you not going back to Assassin's Creed 2. They make no money off that. Mm-hmm. You know, they're better served by you not having those Assassin's Creed multiplayers to go back to if you enjoy that experience. Someone's going to say, I don't. Fine. But there were people that did. Yeah. And guess what? There's a reason Invictus or whatever the actual multiplayer title ends up being is being made. It's because people like that. And weird how it got shut down on its way to the launch of that new game. You know, like the old ones that they got, you know, canned right when they were going to finally make a new one. It's just like NBA or Madden or any of these things where they shut down their old services because if you're sitting on Madden 19 and they're on Madden 26... well, like, they're not making any money off you.
Yeah, right.
So they don't want that. You know, and that's kind of what's frustrating to me is, like, Assassin's Creed was in such a good place for me where Unity, they screwed up because they had pushed way too much too quickly. And so, like, you were seeing tons of bugs and glitches in their games. You were seeing them in 3, you were seeing them in 4. It honestly hit its head in Unity. Rogue was much more solid than Unity at launch. And the point I'm getting to is that all happened because they pushed too fast.
Mm-hmm.
So now what it obviously is they've taken teams that were working on other things and they've said, now we're the Assassin's Creed and Just Dance company. Oh, and also we'll have some guys working on X Defiant, and we'll have some guys working on, like...
Maybe a Far Cry game every 10 years.
Or a Rainbow Six Siege update.
Yeah,
like, they really want to go into this games as a service market, which you can also see by them tying all these games together in, like, that Animus app they're planning to do, and also having an online download requirement for Shadows no matter what. Like, all of these things are pushing towards a future of Assassin's Creed where it's not just too much, too quick, but it's also pushing more and more on, like, reliancy for components that are out of your hands while they ignore their other properties.
Yeah, that's the other problem, too, is, like, when in the future, when they want to make an Assassin's Creed game, they don't want you just playing that game and having fun with it. They want you playing the game and having fun when they say it's okay to play the game and have fun.
Yeah, you live and breathe the new game
exactly
right when it comes out, and then we all move on.
Yep. It's like, hey, here's Assassin's Creed, whatever. Oh, you enjoyed that for a couple months? Yeah, okay, well, here's the next one. Yeah, go play that one. Yeah, please do not play Fallout. Right. Please don't go play COD. We need you playing Assassin's Creed. Oh, here's another one. Oh, you forgot about us? Here's another one right away. And it's like... I can already tell you how this is going to go. I'm going to predict the future here.
You're going to predict the
future? I'm going
to
predict the future.
Wow.
The first game, whatever it is, the first game in this series or this, timeline or whatever will come out. People will get into it. Everyone will say, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing ever. The second one will come out. People will be like, whoa, wow, this is so fun. Then by the third one and the fourth one and the fifth one, people will start to be thinking, oh,
why did you not slow down here?
Yeah, like there's a lot of problems with this.
Right.
And then by the 6th, 7th, and 8th, it's like, oh, well, here's another Assassin's Creed again. And then by the 20th one, everyone's just like done with the series because it's too much.
Well, and here's my problem:
it's too much.
I don't even know if they'll be done with the series. I think what they're trying to do is get away with what Call of Duty has done. Call of Duty has moved in this direction where it's more online reliant every title, less complete every title. They drip feed you like an IV tube. And that's not at all what the originals were like. Yeah. But it's such a huge built-in audience of casual gamers who, no hate to them, like if you want to just like buy a system and you play your Switch 4 hours a week, I don't care. If that's fun for you, that's great. But the problem is there's so many people like that who don't care about how these things make games worse because they interact with games so little. Yeah. They buy so few. Like they'll just buy COD, Madden, FIFA, Assassin's Creed, occasionally a Battlefield or a Halo.
Yeah.
And that's like it.
Well, yeah, and exactly. I know some people, I'm not going to say who it is, that I have not seen in a little while, right? And I was seeing them last year, and I found out that they game. Now, I didn't think these people game because... I've seen them on Facebook and stuff like that, and they're very busy.
Yeah, is this your hot grandpa?
It is. Yeah, how'd you know?
Cool.
I was not wanting to dox them. But
didn't
anyways.
Know he gamed.
So I didn't know these people game, but then I found out they game, and then it's like, oh, cool, what system do you have? And they're like, the PS5. And I'm like, oh, cool, what games do you play? And they're like, oh, yeah, we play a lot of games. We play Call of Duty and FIFA. And I'm like, oh, yeah, what else do you play? And they're like, oh, that's really all we play.
There's a lot of games.
And I'm like, literally, this is like the stereotypical, like, casual gamer. But there are so many people out there like this.
And it's fine.
Yeah, and look, I have a busy life.
Yeah.
I get these people have a busy life. Yeah. Like, they just want to come home, they just want to pop in a game and play it, and just play it for a couple hours a night, and whatever. I get it. But, like... There's so many people out there like this that Ubisoft is having the money symbols in their eyes at this, saying, oh, these people have no lives. They just go to work all the time, and they'll come home, and they'll just eat up whatever we give them.
Yeah, it's like prison food.
Exactly.
Like we'll just throw slop on a plate for you.
Whatever. You enjoy it now. Oh, 5 months later, play our next one. But there's so many people out there that do this. They don't care about the quality. They could care less that Assassin's Creed whatever will have like 500 million glitches in it. They don't care.
Yeah.
Because they'll just buy the next thing.
Well, and speaking of that, too, you and I wanted to talk for a couple minutes about all the games they're ignoring to make this.
Yeah, like Brawlhalla. No, I'm kidding.
Obviously, you've got things like Prince of Persia.
Yeah, who knows what's going on with that franchise?
Rayman. You know, or Rayman, sorry.
Splinter Cell? I haven't seen that since I was a kid.
That's been dead forever. The Division 2 kind of bailed on a lot of its DLC near the end. X Defiant is another example of this, where they like go in, mine their history to try and make a lower effort game.
Yeah.
I by the way, I thought X Defiant was kind of fun. I didn't spend a dime on it, but I probably played like 10 hours of it. It's fun, but it's very obviously like they're going into that games as a service thing again.
Yeah.
You know, drip feeding people stuff.
They also have Uno.
They do have Uno, you are right about that. But there's like a lot of things that they've just dumped. You know, they've pushed, obviously, Just Dance a ton. So that's obviously something that they still do a lot of. But there were actually a lot of Tom Clancy games that they just kind of dumped way back.
Yeah.
You know, a different Tom Clancy, a sub-series, I would say, of games. They dumped Watch Dogs, which I loved. I thought Watch Dogs 1 was super experimental, really fun game. I thought 2 has good gameplay, but I don't like the characters and, you know, so on, right? But then they decided instead of fixing it, they'll just dump it. But with like Assassin's Creed, because it's got that built-in audience, they're willing to just pump and dump.
Yeah.
And that's my concern with it. Like, even with Shadows, I think Shadows looks like a fun game so far, but its marketing has been a disaster. Like, they've just had misstep after misstep after misstep because they just think, oh, well, people just buy it. So they think they don't have to care what they're going to say. And then they step in a pile of shit from themselves that they've made by saying dumb stuff.
Yeah.
And then, like, I mean, the internet's not going to let that go. The internet doesn't let anything go. So then they're in a bunch of trouble. You know what I mean? Like, and that's kind of my point is, like, that's just an example. Like, they haven't even started this plan yet. And they're having issues launching Shadows. They had to delay it. You know, they've had PR disaster after disaster with it. Half of those disasters I don't even care about, by the way. But I can still acknowledge that they've been PR missteps. Like, they have made mistakes promoting that game. Big ones. And so it's like, you haven't even started your plan, and you're already having problems getting Shadows out the door.
Right.
While all these other series rot.
Yeah,
That you don't care about. And you're not going to, you know, you're not going to do anything with them because you don't care.
Yeah. And if they ever do decide to revive Splinter Cell, it'll probably be an online-only experience.
Well, supposedly they're rebooting it, but who knows how that'll be. And that was years ago.
Yeah, we saw how much they care about the reboot of Prince of Persia.
Yeah, that's true. Well, even things, you mentioned Zombie. I mean, just a very, like,
yeah, that was
example.
a fun game.
You know, like, they never really did anything else with that.
No, they ported it to the PS4, and that was kind of it. Really fun. I would highly recommend people playing it, but they're not going to ever do anything with it again. But they're not ever going to make a sequel.
Doesn't this remind you of Activision, where they took companies like Toys for Bob and all these other ones, and they were like, hey, you want to make, like, fun stuff? Like, you want to make Crash Bandicoot, or you want to make Spyro, or whatever. Cool, you're making COD maps.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, we didn't want to make COD. Too bad, we own you.
Right.
That's what this feels like to me, is like it's all hands on deck to just pump AC.
Right.
And I'm looking, you know, just kind of a final thought from me, unless you, and I'll ask you what you think, but I'm looking at it, and I'm seeing the elements that they've dumped over the years. You know, I mentioned at the beginning, we made a video about how Assassin's Creed's modern day story devolved for a very long time, and then in the RPG era, it came back. It's not like it was a huge, but it came back. But for a while, they were like, we don't know what to do with it. So they dumped it. You know, they just kind of didn't care. We saw what they did with the Assassin's Creed multiplayer games when, you know, Invictus was finally rumored and announced and everything. They shut them down. You know, they shut down those multiplayer entries, except for AC4, because I think that would have been a really bad look on the PS4. They shut everything else down and just said, like, well, it was too old. You know, and they've kind of gone through and dumped different experiences to prop up new ones. Even the stuff with Assassin's Creed 3 Remastered. You know, it had glitches that the original didn't, that never got fixed. And also the Liberation re-release had a lot of issues the original didn't have, and then they made it hard to get the original on things like PC. You know, so it's like they already have a history of when they're making the next thing, making the last thing harder to get. You know, other than, I will say, the backwards compatibility of some of the Assassin's Creed games.
Yeah,
like,
that was a good move.
That was a good move. But I don't really see that kind of move now.
Right.
You know, like, it doesn't seem like they care anymore. They just care about what's the newest thing. And so even if these are single-player games, like, let's say they were all narrative, story-driven single-player games, which they're not, and we know they're not, but even if all 20 were, they are already treating their releases as if the release is games as a service. Like, get the game out as quickly as possible, and even if it's not filled with microtransactions, get the next one out as quickly as possible.
I think a quote for me that comes to mind immediately is quality over quantity.
Yes.
I will always care more about the quality of a game as opposed to how much of the games we get. You know, when I pop in Assassin's Creed 4, like the original, I can't believe I have to say the original. But anyways, when I pop in Assassin's Creed 4, I want to play a good game, and it is a good game. But I wouldn't want like 5 Assassin's Creed 4s in a matter of a year and them all just to be garbage. Mm-hmm. You have more of them, but they're all trash. Like, I don't want that.
No.
So, Ubisoft to me is a company, and I think this company is probably at the top of my list, for companies that I really wish would sell their titles to other companies.
Are you saying Assassin's Creed?
Like, get Assassin's Creed out of the hands of Ubisoft.
They'll never do that.
They are the most incompetent company ever. They are so greedy, and it just makes me so sad because I love this series.
Well, and also a lot of those developers under them, you've even said this before, it's like those people, a lot of them do care.
Oh,
but
yeah.
It's like the people above them mandating exactly what they do don't.
Yeah, they're business people.
Yeah.
They look at this and they see, how can we make the most money out of this? They don't see, oh, these people want to play video games and have fun.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's so frustrating to me as a fan of this, just to see this absurd, like, amount of games that we're getting planned. Like, I don't know who can look at this and not think this is going to be a disaster. I guess is what I'm getting at. It's just upsetting, really.
It's really frustrating. So, yeah, I agree. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. I think it's too much. I kind of already think there's too much Assassin's Creed. I think it would be great for the series if it took a break for like 3 years.
Yeah.
And then it came back and gave you a game every 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that would be great. And then they were doing other stuff like Rayman. They were doing other stuff like Splinter Cell. Maybe try out some of those old Tom Clancy games that didn't get off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Let us know what you think in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe. Let us know your thoughts down there. If you want to support our channel, we have a Fortnite code, which is DJAY123. We also have a store, CosmoBunny.shop, where we sell coasters, keychains, and trays from repurposed recycled paper, from comic books, manga, magazines, all kinds of stuff that's been damaged that we were able to take, preserve some of that art, transform it into something new for your home, which we appreciate if you check out. Also, you can use code DJAY123 there for 10% off. And finally, Nate and I have played through several Assassin's Creed games on our Let's Play channel, Degenerate Plays. So if you want to check that out, we play games over there. And actually, there's a new Assassin's Creed Let's Play starting up pretty soon. So hope to see you there. Have a fantastic day. And as always, everyone, stay shway.